We'll be able to use this as a good example. We'll be able to use this as a good example because I averaged into this trade into the top edges and I put it on NinjaTrader so you could see what we were doing. And you can see that it's worked out beautifully. There's been a fairly reasonable sell-off from those high prints. And without an awful lot of size, it's still worth $5,000 odd, into the top edges, which is great news. But it's about recognizing the story that was evolving that allowed us to make that easy money decision. That's the critical thing, isn't it? Because we didn't have the value working for us from the bond market. We were having to go blind with the bonds still bid at that stage. So we had to work in against the order flow plus the real yields plus the liquidity levels plus, and then get the move away from those high prints of 80 down to 75 for $500 per contract, which is just the perfect outcome basically for us as traders. The very bullish equities, very strong start, but the ABCs have rolled out of the top edge. Once we went above that RGL, we talked about it earlier. In fact, we actually were doing a classroom live in the room earlier when we were talking about this. Sorry, I'll change the numbers around so that we've got the charts up. Okay, so this was the S&P at the bottom edge that we were talking about earlier on today. And we talked about the fact if we could get north of the RGLs here, that this market would lift. And we got north of the RGLs and the market lifted. So we talked about this trade when this trade was setting up in here, right? And this was when we actually were talking about this deal because we were discussing the idea of supply and demand and watching for that price to be pushed and looking for the volume coming in and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so we got the big breaker that once you got above that RGL, all the buyers poured in because all the algorithms are going to buy into that. And that's good news because that is exactly what we said was likely to happen before it happened. If you guys were in the room this morning when we were talking about the candle by candle analysis, this is exactly what we were talking about that would happen if we got above these RGLs. And that's what happened. We got a failed auction here and boom, we got this enormous lift through that failed auction into this amazing upside. And as we go into the upside, of course, we've seen some pretty meaty volumes from the cash open. Obviously, the cash open has come in right off of this price here. You can see it was a very bullish open. It paused, pulled back, and we can see it's kind of held this level so far. It's then ran the top, so this could be the low of the day now. That could be the low of the day right there. And you can see the takeaway from that trade is just absolutely beautiful so far. I mean, it was a very, very strong pop, and nothing much you can say about it. It's been a good one. Into the high-low narrative. Obviously, early doors, it's very difficult to get a read against the high lows. But into the high-low narrative, not really any selling showing up just yet. It's kind of a kind of bullish looking market, isn't it? It's definitely got elements of bulls in amongst this high edge here. And obviously, if that diverges and we got a retest, that would be the perfect excuse to start thinking about a possible fade off the highs. And we'll see if that turns into a trade or not. Elsewhere, we can look at the ABCs. We can see the ABCs are certainly more bearish off the high prices, but we still need to see that internal workings. Looking at the NASDAQ, it'd be helpful if they were starting to sell off. The NASDAQ are starting to sell off. So it'd probably be perfect if we could sweep the top edge at this point. If we could sweep the top edge, get into that trade up here, we could be in a pretty interesting shape for a bit of short business to work off the highs.